All right, so welcome to my Education 411 podcast. We're keeping it really real here and also adding some video content for entertainment and educational purposes. So, today I want to talk about what I learned in this class. Essentially, I learned a lot about what a brave conversation is, how to have that not only with students in my classroom, but also how do you work with staffs and other pre-service teachers. So with me today, I actually have one of my peers who you may be familiar with. So I have Fabrice. So any wise words for this podcast?
Have fun, stay whimsy.
So basically, Fabrice is showing a really great example of what it's like to be an adaptable educator. So I think that for me, that's an area I would need further development as I move forward because I'm learning to be more assertive, more flexible, and maybe I tend to stick to a plan and be more meticulous. But keeping that in mind, I think that's one of the things that I learned as an educator. Here I have a little blurb of myself, and I put Stephanie or Miss Mallick because I allow students the choice in what they choose to call me in the classroom. And here's a little bit about me. 24 years old. I like to cook. I like to spend time with my cats. And I also really think one of my big things is I think that a teacher can't be a band-aid on a broken system. So I'm looking to find ways to promote ways of learning and teaching and thinking that are new, innovative, and just also work on current research that is working. Smile and the world smiles with you. Here I really thought that the reading was interesting, so I added a screenshot of the slides where you kind of split us up into little groups because as a researcher, I was familiar a bit with phonetics and also doing a minor in teaching a second language, so it was interesting to kind of deconstruct with my peers and just explore that. So in this particular article, one of the English teachers, Miss Wagner, she's using storytelling as a way to position herself and her students. And here on the right, we kind of have like a brief kind of glimpse of a conversation that's going on here, the pronunciations, how to do it, etc. So it was interesting to kind of look and explore what they meant. When you scroll down a little bit, what I really enjoyed about this class and this conversation and how I think I learned a lot is hearing my peers' experiences in high school and also having the opportunity to be vulnerable and sharing my own. I've also included this little section of your infographic. So what I put as my artifact is my poetry portfolio assignment that I did in my EDU 307 course. Why I thought it matched with the course with positionality and learning and things like that is because it gave me the opportunity to reflect in a creative manner, and it was something that was multimodal. So I was able to demonstrate my learning in a different way. So I'll scroll down a little bit just so you can at least see the first little page. So it was a poetry portfolio assignment where we had to put different types of poetry and share that with the class, and we had a round table type of sharing. So it was really students get to share what they felt comfortable with, and it helped establish rapport. And I was able to write a circumstance that I was experiencing at the time, and I think that when I had the opportunity to be creative, but then in a structured way, that helped and it had a really positive impact on my course content, the level at which it was at, but then also on my motivation and my affective filter as a learner. So that was something that's important to me. So over here, and I wrote one like this, and then described a bit the narrative poem here, following the structure, etc. Then we had to kind of create a series, so I did an acoustic poem. That's something I would consider doing with my students, especially with some time constraints. So I thought it was important to include as well because a lot of the times we think that depth means length, and I think that there's such an over influx of content that we need to take into consideration. Okay, let's maybe do instead of doing 10 books, let's maybe do 5 and go deeper and make sure students really understand and grasp the meaning. So then there's a little grammar poem here, a little cute mouse. So this is a 6-word memoir. The bubbly, bursted being popped passively. For those who don't know me, I'm a big fan of bubbles, so would understand the link with that. But It's just something so beautiful. And when you have a spectrum of colors, I don't want to go on a tangent here, but I definitely think that you have the black and the white, and then you have this spectrum of colors in the middle. And a bubble is like a moment, and it pops so quickly, but when you see it, you appreciate it. So here we have some artwork inspired from what we did in class. So essentially, intertextuality and the youth lens. Your Body is a Battleground, the work of Barbara Kruger, and we did some intertextuality and worked on a battleground literary text comparison. So I've incorporated the drawing we did that class as well, where we had to kind of draw our high school selves or what a high school student today looks like. And then I've included excerpts from the Youth Lens article for that reading. And then for me, I really consider how intertextuality is so significant and so poignant today because of this over-influx of media. And I want to talk a bit more about my connection to young adult literature. So, we talked in our class about critical discourse, brave conversations, becoming organic literacies, and one of the most important things I think you were saying it in our class is who you cite is who you read, and that it's important to avoid the vacuum and slash echo chamber. I would consider because the echo chamber, when you're stuck there, it's everything you read. Then you see it as an absolute truth, and there's a negativity to excess, which is I think something that we need to explore deeper, exploring different perspectives and perspective taking and intertextuality, but then just looking at different sides and how it's like it's not necessarily one perspective that rules or that is dominant, but we do need to be mindful that dominant ideologies do exist and they are perpetuated in society, but more that they exist and we need to talk about them or else it's erasure of experience. You can't just ignore and be like, oh, I don't see um, certain inequalities because they don't apply to me. That's not how life and being an equitable educator means. Blackout poetry with reflection slash explanation on is the poesy. So if you recall from this class, I went in pretty depth and personal example. In this text, it was a Jane Austen expert, and it was Pride and Prejudice, I believe. So blackout poetry is something that I also did with my students when I went to go to my observation. So I thought it was interesting to have that blackout poetry class with university students and then do it after with secondary 4 students and getting them to see finding inferences in the meaning and the different things. Of course, there was a bit more tomfoolery with the secondary 4 students, but I think that we were able to reach a level of depth and then share and kind of see like taking classical literary texts from the canon for the most part and just deconstructing them and making meaning of our own. So I thought it was an interesting way to be creative, and I think it's a great tool for students, especially if they're not necessarily certain where to start. So I think this could also be good for prompts and get like some creative flow going. So what I did as an artifact is I put my language portrait assignment, which I did in my Edu 210 class, and then it's sink or swim. So it's about the different languages that take up and how that affects me, and how I coach switch in my life, and when speaking different languages. So I speak English and French, and how my influence and positionality and my impact and my identity might transfer or shift depending where I am and who I'm around and what my environment is. So this is pretty interesting. I'll let you take a greater look for yourself, but I would say this is one of my favorite works that I created so far. And my professor asked to use it as an example, so I was really honored, and it was how I was talking about my relationship to languages and then connecting it back to some theorists and some of the readings that we had done. So it's pretty interesting to think about, and it made me really reflect on what compromises the bilingual, and then also affects my current teaching and how I want to be in the classroom, because I'm really a big fan of plurilingual pedagogy, and that's something that I've learned about and I want more people to know about. So I'll let you take a look at that essentially. But for my artifact 4 Communication Cafe, it's a video I did last semester, and this experience was really enlightening. I'm Lebanese a little bit, so for me, learning a bit of Arabic was absolutely amazing. So, particularly Darja Arabic, pardon my pronunciation, and it was really something that I would encourage and do with my students' language cafe, and like being an ongoing learner. And in the video example, even I as a student and I as a teacher could learn from the experiences that were going on. The artwork that was in the stage 3 school that I was working at last year. I added the video here that we did, and essentially in this video, my peers and I hadn't really seen the second part of it. So we discussed the second part of it and how vernacular could change identity. It made me think a lot of my second language courses and what we did and how we dissected and deconstructed meaning there. The artifact 5 that I did, I made this personal video for my stage 3, and it kind of gives like a little bit of a rundown of what's going on.
Testing.
So I would definitely
Reporting live from Seminar de Shelbrook. Hi, my and songs of experience when creating my practicum portfolio. The reason that I did this is because I really wanted to add some themes and add some emotionality to my 6-week experience. She created this piece and in mind was kind of thinking about a metaphor for education, so I really thought it was fitting. I worked with a text called The Art of Negotiation, and I also contacted the author of this book, Dr. Jonathan Rose, and he made a video for my students, which I'm really stoked about. So
essentially, I'll let you watch that if you'd like. But I also did a 7 chapters writing for my methods course, and then I combined the mural pieces here, and I created the art of negotiation, and then I made them do a cross activity, which is here. So essentially, kind of this assignment talks about my stage and things that I did. I thought it was a really crucial component of my growth and how I learned to be an independent educator and do outreach on my own, and I think it covers some professional teaching competencies. So I'll let you take a greater look at that. Oh yeah, and then he basically made a video resource, and then that video resource could be used for the next following generation of students, so I'm very, very grateful for that. LES presentation that I did with Haley, and essentially when I was doing that, I wanted to really have diversity at heart and really consider students' prior knowledge and perspectives and positionality, and do it in a way that was very mindful and more cultural appreciation rather than appropriation, because I have to be mindful of my identity as a white cis woman and how my teaching of the course could be different and the ways that I might have limitations, and I'm willing to put in the work and learn from that, because for me I think it would be a greater disservice to my students to ignore topics. So then here I put for my practicum observation visit some of the other things I wanted to go over. I basically introduced myself to the students, and then what I did is I asked them what their strengths, needs, languages, and favorite songs were. So I gave them a little bit of an example after going over some class expectations, and then on that piece of paper, it helps me get to know them, what they need in the classroom, their languages are, so if I want to incorporate plurilingual pedagogy, what their favorite song is, so I can incorporate music. And I went in extensive detail in terms of explaining to them what could be considered a strength, a weakness, and a strength need, pardon me. And yeah, no, below there's a whole LES completed with the worksheets, so it's everything here that you would do in the competencies. I would really recommend checking it out because I think that a lot could be learned and done here. And yeah, no, this video, I had a great time making this little podcast today. But before I end, I'll just go over quickly some of the ELA competencies. So using language to talk, to communicate, and to learn, reads and listens to written, spoken, and media text, produces text for personal and social purposes. I think that with my Education 411 class, I learned a lot about this, and I think that I was able to use language with my peers to learn and also read and listen to text provided by my professor. And then in terms of content creation, producing text for personal and social purposes, I was able to do that in our classroom, but also in the larger scale of the Bishop's community, as I was working with the Education Community Club that I founded to produce and create text and gather community. So I want to keep doing that in my future classroom, and that's something that I'm looking forward to, as I do want to potentially become a curriculum scholar and have maybe more of a say on content that we can use. So I just want to take a moment to thank you and say that I've appreciated my time in your class, and I hope that if you celebrate, you have happy holidays.
So I do enjoy co-constructing knowledge, and I thought that I would ask some people that you know. So I've gathered some ELA peers for my Talking Out Loud EDU 411 podcast, and I've asked them how I have developed as an educator. So we're gonna bring it back to Fabrice, and we'll ask him how I have developed as an educator. Bring it to you, Fabrice.
For sure, how Steph has grown as an educator has been gaining the confidence to back up her ideas. Now, she is known for having really good and pushed ideas and having a lot of different ways of going at it. But this semester and last semester specifically, we've seen how she's able to push those ideas and support them with theory-backed practices. That's what I would say.
I appreciate you. So we have another special guest from our ELA course, our huge cohort of 8 people. Shout out. So now I will be sending the mic over to Brianna.
Hi, and good evening. So I think one way Steph that really grew into the teacher that she is today is definitely through this course with the organization of developing these LESs, and also through the book study that we did. But also I'm going to kind of go outside of the course, taking the lead in the student education group club that she's created with the Bishop's community. I really think that her experience and the fact that the club has grown so much in the last year, she can really take that experience and bring it to her classroom. And I mean, she's shown it to us so far, and yeah, I think it really shows how developed she has become.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Brianna, and just wanted to comment on that. Thank you for your time. Yes, so we have Haley in the car next door, and we have Dylan. So share what you would like.
I want to say that Steph grew as an educator by being super positive throughout her experiences. I don't know what's going on with my hair, but she, just like the way she spoke about her practicum experience, one that she's not the most excited about, she's still keeping a really positive outlook, and that's something I really admire in her, and I think it's going to make her grow even more throughout this experience.
Aww, thank you so much, Dylan.
You're welcome.